slide this way. Come on. All right. And can one of you all, can you record with your phone too? Okay. Sure. Yep. Everybody okay with the audio? All right. I'm Mawali Davis, the Davis Bozeman Johnson Law Firm, and I represent the family of Mr. Charles Calhoun. We are here in Mr. Calhoun's home, a home that was a sacred and safe space for him and his family, a home where he entertained his grandson and children, and he lived with his wife. He was a retiree and was in the twilight of his years and enjoying life with his family when unfortunately his house had been previously burglarized. And we have a photograph where this back window had been broken out and an attempt was made to come into his home when he was in the house. And so it was under those circumstances that he was concerned. He heard noises the night that, or the early morning hours when he was tragically shot by the Clayton County SWAT. So we're here with the family. They will be having his funeral services on tomorrow, and not a celebration of what he would normally do on a Saturday, which is play with his grandson and enjoy his family. Instead, they will be burying him. And so we want to make it very clear that there have been a number of narratives that have been put out about Mr. Calhoun. Mr. Calhoun was, again, a retiree, a family man who loved his family deeply, who had not had any issues with law enforcement in this community at all. He was just merely trying to protect his own home when this happened. We want, and again, we have sent a letter today to the chief of the Clayton County Police Department, and we have asked him to do what leaders in law enforcement have been doing around the country, and that is release body cam footage. We'd like for body cam footage to be released so that we can see and this family can see and be clear about what happened that night. Because what they were left with was phone calls, continued phone calls between Miss Calhoun, who was at her mother's home in Atlanta, and Mr. Calhoun, who was here, again, concerned that someone was breaking into their home. And so we believe that it could help this family in their healing and grieving process to know what happened, to know why these officers shot and killed their loved one. And so that's what the request is. Again, this is no longer an extraordinary request. Over the years that we have been doing this, it has become more and more common that even in the course of an investigation, if there's body cam footage, that is released to family so that family can look at it and they can understand why certain things happen. Right now, all we know is that he was concerned, and we believe that he fell, and that as he was getting up, that was a part of what led to his shooting. And that's what we're left with. So I would like for you all to hear from his family, his wife, Ms. Cheryl Calhoun, who has had to weather this since his shooting, and is standing here strong with the support of her family, her church family, and the members of the community who have supported her as well. So I'll have her come forward.
Ms. Calhoun, can you spell your first and last name?
Cheryl, Sheryl, Calhoun, Calhoun.
What do you have to say?
On the night that my husband passed, early that morning, I was at my mom's house over in Summerhill area. And he called and said that sounded like someone was trying to come in. My husband, having survived COVID, had problems with his lungs and legs, couldn't hardly walk. And so I looked at the back camera. I said, I can see the back. There's no one back there. And it showed that the front camera battery was low, so I couldn't see what was going on in the front. He said, well, I'm going to walk outside and see what I see. I said, okay, well, call me as soon as you come back in, because normally when my husband go outside, I watch to make sure he doesn't fall walking down the driveway because he had problems walking. And I didn't get an answer. I kept calling, no answer. And then finally, a neighbor texted and asked if I was home. And immediately I picked up the telephone and called and asked what was going on. That's when he informed me that the police had shot a man in my driveway with a gun. And I began screaming. I kept saying, that's my husband. That is my husband. He went out to see if anybody was outside. And I wish I had been home with him. I could have been his legs. My husband could not walk good. And I truly believe when he told me he saw my husband sitting up, my husband fell and tried to get back up because he's fallen so many times. And like I said, COVID took the best of him. And that's what happened.
I imagine that you want answers right now.
I want to know why. I want to know why they had to shoot him. I want to know why, when the police came, why someone didn't notify, because my husband is a good man. He's retired. We both retired from Ford Motor Company. My husband is a good man. He's not perfect, but he's mine. And he's a good man. He's not a violent man. And I want to know why they couldn't make sure he was okay. And I don't understand it. And I want to know if something went wrong, then I need to know what caused them to take my husband's life.
Has police given you any answers? Have they been in contact with you?
I haven't talked with the police at all.
You have not met with any detectives?
None at all. I leave everything up to Mr. Davis.
How important is it for you to see the body cam to see what happened?
If I can see what happened, then I can grieve more. I can move on with my life. I can learn what happened. As to what happened and why it caused for them to take my husband's life when he's only trying to see what's going on. I know in my heart, because it happened so many times, my husband fell. I had to pick him up many times. When he walked to the mailbox, I stand in the window to watch. And my husband usually go no further than the garage when he let it up and look, because like I said, COVID took the best of his legs and he survived that. And then only to at home. And that's the hard part.
What has this loss done to you and your family?
It hurts. My daughter grieved, his sister grieved, his son, my family grieved. He still has a mother that's living who's grieving of her only son. And so we're trying to put all this together to make sense with a man that's not violent and what happened as to why it happened.
Police say he refused to put his gun down. Would he ignore officers' command? Was he that type of person?
No. If they had made it known who they were, or he saw that it was a police officer and they not came at him from behind, he would have, because he's not a violent person. My husband is not a violent person.
How long have you all lived here on this street?
We built this house in 1997. My husband built this house for us.
The police report said that neighbors were concerned and that they called police. What are your thoughts about your neighbors who you've been here for these years?
Well, let me just say that what we understand is that people are shot. And so we're clear that you're going to call the police. Our concern, when you come up in a stealth manner from behind the house and you don't come with blue lights to alert, when you are concerned that there's a burglar that is approaching your home or in and around your house, you don't know who's who and what's what, and it's a confusing time. And so our concern is not with the fact that neighbors called the police because they heard a gunshot. We believe that is what every neighbor would do and what they would do as well. What we are concerned with is the approach made by law enforcement and not alerting Mr. Calhoun of their presence in a way that made it very clear. We've had this many times before in police shooting cases where we're told that a demand to drop a weapon was made and little, if not any time was given to the person who was armed, right? And they're armed. We've seen it where people were armed in their own home, shot and killed in their own home because they were, again, believing they were able to defend their houses. And in a split second, an officer says, drop the weapon. And before they can drop the weapon, they're being shot to death. So this isn't a uncommon scenario of law enforcement saying we ordered them to drop the weapon and they don't have the time to respond to that command. And so that's a concern. And the body camera footage would just answer a lot of those questions.
Wally, are you saying that the police startled him possibly?
What we're saying is that the police came, and it was SWAT. They came from the back of this home. He was in the front of the home.